That evening, they enjoyed Tom's storytelling and the dances in the common room. However, when they got ready to go to bed, Rand first met up with Moiraine to teach her actual traveling, which required familiarity with the place of departure. Unlike last time, no midral appeared, meaning there was no rushed departure in the middle of the night. However, once they did leave the next morning, Rand found himself worried that they might have lost the advantage they had gained by not being tracked in exchange for a calmer journey, something he shared with Moiraine and the others who knew his secret. At least it had given Lan the time to buy 2 more horses, so they were all on horseback for the journey east to Whitebridge. For 3 days, there was no sign of Trollocs, and Rand was almost beginning to believe that they would have a quiet journey to Camelin when a Trolloc horn sounded behind them, certainly no more than 10 miles away. They had just finished their break and had been about to continue their journey. Lan and Moiraine immediately had an unspoken conversation, after which the warder announced he would scout out their enemy while the rest of the group would travel on ahead. Rand fell back so he could speak to Moiraine without being overheard. In front of him rode Tam and nynaeve, with everyone else further ahead. "How close are we to Shadowspawn?" he asked. Moiraine looked surprised. "You want to go there?" "No," Rand replied. "In fact, I want to avoid going there, which is what we did last time." Mat took a dagger along, and not only did it almost kill him, it also freed the evil currently trapped inside the city's walls. Moiraine nodded. "No, Shadowspawn then. To answer your question, it is within range for us to reach by nightfall. Do you remember how many Trollocs there are?" "No," Rand said. "However, I do remember we fought one fist, which we managed only because Lan killed the Fade, and then you delayed several more fists with some taxing weaves." "Then that means that if we cannot go to Shadowspawn, even in the case of an emergency, we might need your channeling," Moiraine said. "I know," Rand replied. "If that is how things must be, then I'll do it." "The wheel weaves as the wheel wheels," Moiraine said, making Rand chuckle. "You know, I can hardly believe it took this long for you to say that." "I may have been too surprised by the weavings of the wheel myself recently," Moiraine noted. "Glad to be of service," Rand teased. Considering even Min's viewings changed, though, was it really a weaving of the wheel? Horns sounded again, closer this time. "An interesting philosophical discussion," Moiraine said, "that I don't think we have time for." Nynaeve fell back. "Can't we go faster? The horns are getting closer." "And why are they letting us know they are here?" Moiraine asked. "Perhaps so. We will hurry on without thinking of what might be ahead." Lan returned soon after, saying there were at least 3 fists behind them and that they would catch up in an hour. As Moiraine wondered why they were being driven onward, horns sounded again in the west, though this time more horns answered in the east. There seemed to be a note of triumph to them. "What do we do now?" Nynaeve demanded. "There is a place where the Trollocs won't go," Lan said. "No," Rand replied. "It's too dangerous." "Then I don't think we can escape them," the warder noted. "As Moiraine just told me, the wheel weaves as the wheel wheels." "You would reveal your abilities then?" Lan asked. "I'd rather do that than spend another night in Shadowspawn. We will take a hilltop then and see whether we can hold. If need be, how many fists can you hold off while surrounded?" "Dozens," Rand replied. "By yourself?" Moiraine gasped. "Yes." Mat fell back. "What's going on?" he wanted to know. "We're going to make a stand," Lan said, pointing towards a nearby hill before calling out for everyone to follow him there. "A stand?" Mat asked. "We can't escape them." "No," Moiraine said. "How many Trollocs are there?" Mat asked, fearful. "Not more than we can handle," Moiraine replied, "though they may believe otherwise." "Stay on your horses," Lan ordered as they waited on the hill. Though there were patches of forest around them, the hill itself was exposed, giving them an overview of the coming battlefield. One of the advantages Trollocs have is their height. By sitting on horseback, you can negate that. With the lack of experience from some of you, that may be vital. Lan and Tam had been teaching Mat and Perrin, but there was only so much you could pick up in a week's worth of evening lessons, each after a day of riding. A first fist of Trollocs arrived and Matt raised his bow, but Lan told him to stand down when the Trollocs did not approach. We wait until they are closer. But they're just going to wait until the others arrive, Matt argued. And if we attack now, we exhaust ourselves while giving up our greatest advantage, which is the high ground. Can we fight, however many fists there are? Perrin asked, looking at Moiraine. Yes, she replied. With the 9 of us, Tom asked, loading his pipe. And only one Aes Sedai and one girl who learned about the One Power last week. We might as well say our goodbyes right now. I have an engril, Moiraine said, pulling the object out of her cloak. It enhances how much of the One Power I can tap into. Tom scoffed, but did not reply. Matt, Perrin, and Egwene looked fearful. 6 more fists arrived, completely surrounding the hill. 700 Trollocs, led by 7 Myrddraal. A horn sounded, 6 others replying immediately, and the Trollocs started pushing up the hill. I can't do this, Moiraine said calmly. What? Matt exclaimed as Rand seized Sidin. He wove earth, air, and fire, conjuring 6 10-feet-tall pillars of fire, no thicker than a man's forearm, then added another thread of air, exploding the blossoms of fire and wreaking destruction in a large area. Most of the Trollocs and Myrddraal assaulting the hill died immediately, but Rand did not pause, this time weaving earth and fire as his fingers danced, and each fingertip shot 10 arrows, so quick it seemed as if they were blinking, targeting Trollocs all around them. Wherever a Trolloc got hit, the arrow would burn a large hole, continuing onward to hit the next. Within seconds, all shadowspawn lay dead, and Rand released Sedin again. Blood and bloody ashes, what was that? Matt exclaimed, the first to find his voice. Even Moiraine looked awed, to say nothing of the rest of them. Tom was shocked. Perrin looked like he had no clue what to think, and Egwene seemed to have realized what was going on, yet utterly confused as to how. Moiraine, Rand said, taking charge. Perhaps you could reveal what brought you to the 2 rivers in the first place. She nodded, gathering herself and settling into that trademark serene Aes Sedai look. That is a story that started 20 years ago, during the last days of the Aiel War, while the Battle of the Shining Walls took place outside Tar Valon. I wasn't accepted at the time, though I was close to obtaining the shawl and becoming a full Aes Sedai. I was attending to Tamara Ospenya, the amyrlin seat at the time, the leader of the Aes Sedai. Her keeper of the chronicles, Gitara Moroso, was also present and had the talent of foretelling. At the crack of dawn, hundreds of horns suddenly sounded. As we later learned, the Aiel had succeeded in their goal of killing King Lamon for his sin of cutting down Avendor Aldera. However, that soon became a footnote, as Gitara spoke the words I will never forget. He is born again. I feel him. The dragon takes his first breath on the slope of Dragon Mount. He is coming! She died immediately after giving this prophecy, Moiraine said morosely. Tamara ordered me and the one other accepted present to speak of this to no one. And I know there are many tales, myths, and folklore about the dragon reborn and his coming, but the truth is this. He will stand against the shadow at tarmongaidon, the last battle, and lead the light. In this duality, the prophecy foretells both our doom and our savior. In the next weeks, Tamara had a number of secret meetings with a few other Aes Sedai, and I was also raised to the position of Aes Sedai myself. Then, Tamara suddenly died, supposedly in her sleep. The other Aes Sedai she had meetings with died soon after, for one reason or another. By the time a year had passed, my friend and I were the only 2 Aes Sedai alive who knew of the prophecy and were not sworn to the dark. An Aes Sedai admitting to the existence of the Black Ajah, even indirectly, Tom interrupted. Now I've heard everything. It is hard to deny their existence if you have almost been murdered by a Black Sister, Moiraine said testily before continuing her story. I dedicated myself to looking for the dragon reborn, searching all throughout the world. Recently, I found leads that pointed towards 2 rivers, one of the only places I had not visited yet. I knew the Dark One's servants were also looking for the dragon, and I feared I might not arrive in time. And that's where I'll take over, Rand said. The story I am about to tell you may have some familiarity to you at first, but it is not the same. Please bear with me. Moiraine arrived in 2 rivers. We were attacked by Trollocs, and Matt, Perrin, Egwene and I left together with her and Lan, Tom joining us for our journey as well. In Baerlon, we were joined by Nynaeve, who had intended to take us back to Emon's field, but instead joined us. We got split up, found each other again, fought shadowspawn like today, and so on. But eventually it became clear to Moiraine that I was the one she had been looking for. I tried to deny it, but as Moiraine likes to say, the wheel weaves as the wheel wills. I drew Kalandor. I conquered and ruled. I cleansed Sedin of the taint, played politics. But then, when I was using an extraordinary amount of the One Bower, more than anyone has ever drawn in the past, I unwound the wheel by accident. Suddenly, I found myself back in Emon's field, the day before Beltane, but with my memories of everything that had been undone remaining. You might have noticed that I've changed, perhaps become more confident, more willing than you to trust an Aes Sedai. This is why. Tom sucked his pipe. That is the most insane story I have ever heard. And the strangest part is, after what I just saw, I have no choice but to believe you. That false dragon in Ghealdan, Loghain, is powerful, but there is no way even he could reproduce this. He can, actually, Rand said. I've seen him do it. He just doesn't have the necessary education at this point. Well, that is very reassuring, Tom muttered around his pipe. Is that why you've been more distant? Perrin asked hesitantly. I thought it was because everything that happened that night, with you out there fighting the Trollocs. Yes, Rand said. I knew I had to tell you, Matt and Egwene at some point, but I wasn't certain how to go about it. After all, we were raised with quite a few prejudices and stories about male channelers and such. Matt scoffed. You're still Rand, aren't you? Yes, that's all I need. Rand laughed. Thank you, Matt. I suppose I could use some reassurance. Is that why you told that story that was supposedly from a merchant's guard? Egwene asked. Yes, Rand replied. I heard what you and Moiraine were talking about, and I wanted to put your mind at rest. But, Egwene seemed very hesitant. Won't you, still go mad? Only so long as Sedin remains tainted, Rand said. Remember the things I just told you. Last time, I cleansed it and made it safe to use again. This time around, I plan to not only do so again, but much earlier, before midsummer for sure. A full 1.5 years earlier than last time. And when I unwound the pattern, what madness I did have seems to have disappeared, giving me a clean slate. I try to avoid using it whenever possible, and if Moiraine's power suffices, but she doesn't know the weaves required, I link with her and perform it instead. Aren't Sedin and Sedar separate? Egwene asked. How could you use Moiraine's power? Channelers can link with each other, combining their power. I have memories from the Age of Legends, including how to work with Sedar. I channel only a minuscule amount of Sedin, and therefore a minuscule amount of taint, and use Sedar to accomplish my goals. Is that what you did just now? Matt asked. No, Rand said. Moiraine doesn't have the power to do this, even if she knew the weaves. This was all me. So, who already knew? Perrin asked. You obviously told Moiraine, but... Lan was told by Moiraine, and I also told my father and Nynaeve already, Rand said. In fact, the real reason Nynaeve has come with us is because I requested her help. How can she help? Egwene asked. Actually, why did Matt and Perrin have to come along if you already knew that the Trollocs were after you specifically? I knew the Trollocs were after me specifically, Rand said, but they didn't know who they were looking for. Ishamael probably knows by now, but it wouldn't be too much longer until he figured it out anyway. And besides, Matt and Perrin, just like you and Nynaeve, have their own parts to play in these coming years. How that has changed with what I've done, I don't know, though there are differences already. As for Nynaeve, I'll leave it to her whether she wants to reveal that. Everyone turned to the wisdom, who hesitated before answering. Apparently, I'm a channeler too. Don't undersell yourself, Nynaeve, Rand said. Nynaeve is, right now, the strongest female channeler between the spine of the world and the Aryth Ocean. Strong enough to match some of the Forsaken. She blushed at Rand's words. Tom, Rand said, I have a specific request for you. I will need people around me that can play the game of houses, and can play it well. I am but a lowly gleeman, Tom said. Rand snorted. So, you always say. Besides, he said, smirking, I'm sure you could write some great songs about the events that are going to happen in the near future. That is true, Tom said pensively. Court Bard to the Dragon Reborn does have a certain flair to it, I suppose. You'll have the title as soon as I have a court, Rand said. A court? Matt muttered. Rand laughed. No one is going to force you to stay at a court, Matt. In fact, I'd say you have better things to do than wearing fancy clothing and insulting people while... Actually, insulting people while making them think you're complimenting them sounds right up your alley, but that aside, I'm sure we'll find something you enjoy, or failing that, the pattern will. You sound like her, he said, gesturing to Moiraine. Well, she did spend quite a lot of time teaching me about the world, but perhaps we should find ourselves a place to camp for the night that doesn't smell of burned trolloc. Lan led the way back to the road and then down to the east until they had made some distance from the slaughter. It couldn't really be called a battle, and dismounted for the night. Do you still want to travel to Camelin? Moiraine asked. Yes, Rand said. I definitely want to meet Elaine and Loyal. Loyal is an Ogier who'll be staying at the Queen's Blessing Inn around the time Loghain is paraded through Camelin, and he became a dear friend. And who is Elaine? Egwene asked. The daughter heir of Andor, Rand replied. The future queen. She's also a strong channeler, similar in strength to you. You'll be novices in the White Tower together. Wait, weren't we supposed to travel to Camelin and then Tavalon no matter what? Matt asked. Yes, Rand said. However, I do know how to travel, to make a gateway with the one power that allows people to move from one place to another, even on the other side of the world. So you're saying we could skip all this riding? Matt demanded. Not without tipping off Ba'alzamon that I know far more than I am supposed to. Traveling has been lost since the breaking of the world. I would prefer he underestimates me when we fight. But my other reasons for avoiding it have been invalidated to one degree or another. It's something to consider. After having dinner together, Egwene made her way over to Rand and sat down next to him. He gave her a smile by the light of the campfire. Rand had refused to continue going without fire with their pursuers dead, and him able to take care of any new threats anyway. Did we get together? Egwene asked haltingly, too soft for others to hear. No, Rand said. We grew apart, mostly because it took me a rather long time to accept that you were going to become an Aes Sedai. I hated the very thought of it at first. But you don't hate it anymore, right? Egwene asked, some uncertainty in her voice. No, I don't. And, in fact, I'm happy for you. You'll make a great Aes Sedai, Egwene. And I might even take the time to teach you a few things that Moiraine doesn't know during these coming days or weeks. But we still can't get together then, can we? Egwene asked, disappointment shining through her voice. Aes Sedai don't marry. We're at the turning of an age, Rand said. A lot of things are about to change. In the Age of Legends, it was normal for Aes Sedai to marry. Perhaps in the Fourth Age it will once again be normal. He shifted a little, so she could lean against him. Do you want us to get together? I don't know, Egwene said. I think so, but I don't know if you had someone else, perhaps. And I don't want to take that away from you, either. I had a rather unusual relationship, Rand said. You remember Min from Belon? The girl you and Moiraine talked to that first evening? That's the one. I couldn't choose between her Elaine and an aiel woman named Avienda, And then they decided that I wasn't going to choose at all, and they'd just share me instead. Egwene gave a humorless chuckle. So I have to compete with not one, but 3 women, ones that I don't even know yet? We could just try things out a bit first, Rand proposed. See if we enjoy being together. I'm not going to seriously meet any of them for a while longer anyway, so we'll see what happens later on. She turned to face him with her large brown eyes. I'd like that. Rand put his hand on her head to hold her steady, then slowly closed the distance between them and gave her a light kiss on the lips. As he released her, moments later, she blushed bright scarlet. Good night, Egwene. The next morning, the possibility of traveling once again came up. No, Rand said, having thought about it more. Being on the road allows Perrin, Mat, and Egwene to train without being forced into dangerous situations, and there's actually another reason why we need to stay in the area. He turned to Lan and Moiraine. Do you remember Elias? They both nodded. He should be somewhere on the other side of the river from Shadar Logoth, Rand said. And we're going to need him. Lan, is it possible for you to cross the Arenal, find him, then meet us east of Whitebridge? I should be able to, Lan said. What do I tell him to convince him to come with me? Tell him that you have reason to assume you've found someone like him. Moraine's eyes widened. Now that is a surprise. We are full of surprises, Moiraine. What are you talking about? Mat asked. Something that I expect will happen soon, Rand said. Once it does, I think Moiraine will do a better job explaining it than I can. How would Lan find us again? Nynaeve asked. The water bond tells him Moraine's approximate location, Rand replied. I might as well leave right now then, Lan said. I'm sure you have everything in hand. Tam, don't forget to put the boys through their lessons. He readied his horse, then rode off to the north, straight through the hills, while the rest of the party went east along the road to Whitebridge. That day, Rand made sure to ride next to Mat and Perrin, as he felt he hadn't spent enough time with either of his best friends recently, his secret forcing them apart. Wasn't there something with a male channeler in Baerlon attacking the White Cloaks? Perrin asked. Were you involved there, Rand? He got executed, right? Yes, he did, Rand said. He wasn't a channeler, but he was a dark friend, and I figured framing him so that the White Cloaks would take care of him was more convenient than killing him, and perhaps drawing the attention of the White Cloaks to ourselves instead. The Dark One had given him the ability to find us anywhere, so he could become very inconvenient, and to make matters worse, he was touched by the evil of Shadar Logoth. What is this Shadar Logoth? Mat asked. I've heard it mentioned several times. It's the remains of aL'Thor, Rand said. Though they were originally valiant fighters against the Shadow in the Trolloc Wars, they became so paranoid that they trusted no one, and in fact formed an evil of their own, which has since then been trapped in the ruins of the city. At night, mists come out that kill and consume anyone they touch. And if you want the poetic version, you'd have to ask Moiraine. Speaking of, maybe I should ask her to tell the story of mandragoran, the last time emotions ran a little higher after the attack at home, and she told the story in order to calm people down, but this time that wasn't needed. What's that about? Mat asked. Or rather, your ancestors, Rand said. I don't have Two Rivers ancestors, of course. Wait, what do you mean? Perrin interrupted. Rand slapped his forehead. I completely forgot that you didn't know that. My parents are aiel, but my mother was dying when Tam came across her, and he decided to take me in as his own. I see him as my father, though, even if by blood he's not. Anyway, regarding mandragoran, it was a nation with its capital in the mountains near Two Rivers. They were known for having the bravest armies in the Trolloc Wars, but they were eventually defeated by an enormous Trolloc invasion. However, they then took all those Trollocs with them. Again, if you want to hear the poetic version, you'll have to ask Moiraine. I'm no storyteller. It is a story worth hearing, though. You know, I'm glad we're finally talking again for real, Rand, Mat said. You've been a bit distant since we left. Rand nodded. I found it hard to talk to either of you, knowing I had changed and unable to explain why. In hindsight, perhaps I shouldn't have worried so much and just told you immediately. Well, No changes there, Matt laughed. You've always been the one to worry too much. So what are you planning on doing first? Perrin asked. Well, as I mentioned already, I want to travel to Camelin, Rand said. From Whitebridge onward, we'll travel through more populated areas, by the way, so we will actually be able to sleep in inns then. After that, I mean to fight Ba'alzamon. That's Ishamael, not the Dark One himself, no matter what he wants people to believe, and hopefully kill him. 2 more Forsaken are likely to be freed a little earlier than the rest, due to not being sealed away perfectly. If we can get rid of those 2, that would be perfect, because then no one is able to interrupt while I'm cleansing said inn. I'm sorry, Matt spoke up. You're saying the Forsaken are going to be freed? Yes, Rand said. In all honesty, that probably sounds scarier than it is. They are just people who happen to be powerful channelers, and, as a rule of thumb, don't have too many morals. But many of them are ruled by their vices, which makes them predictable. And what makes them even more predictable is that I know nearly all the identities they took on, so I can start taking them out as soon as they appear, before they have a chance to establish themselves. You can take them out? Matt asked. I am stronger than any of them, except Ishamael, who matches me in strength, Rand said. You saw it yesterday. Matt shivered. Please don't take too long with that cleansing business. It makes me uncomfortable to think about. I wasn't planning on waiting, Rand said. Turning back the wheel undid what the taint did to me, but I wasn't truly sane anymore, for all that I managed to keep somewhat of a lid on things. He grimaced as he thought back to how he had almost killed Tam before he realized what he had been about to do, just because Tam had been manipulated into visiting by someone else. And what will you do after the cleansing? Perrin asked. I'll go to Tyr, Rand said. That's where Kalendor is found, which scholars consider one of the clearest signs of the true Dragon Reborn returning, so it will give me a lot of legitimacy to have it. Then, I'll be traveling to the White Tower to negotiate an alliance with the Amyrlin seat and the Aes Sedai. After that, I am not sure yet, but I'll likely be consolidating my power in Tyr, keeping an eye out for other Forsaken returning, and at some point, I'll probably travel to the Aiel Waste. Why? Because the Aiel also have prophecies about me, and they were some of my greatest allies, Rand said. Speaking of, I should probably correct a few misconceptions about them. There is little truth to the stories we heard as kids about the Aiel. They're a very honorable people, and their entire society is based around a system of honor called Jido. It's hard to explain how it works. You just have to learn it. But it's not as if they expect strangers to adhere to it, so you don't need to worry. Also, they don't look much like the stories say. Most have blonde or red hair, light skin and blue, gray or green eyes, and they tend to be very tall. Kind of like me, my birth parents are aiel after all. So, what about us in the meanwhile? Perrin asked. I mean, I want to help, but I feel like I don't know anything compared to you. I want to teach both of you various things, Rand said. For you, Perrin, it has to do with why I sent Lan away. Again, I'll let Moiraine explain things when it becomes relevant, though you don't need to be worried. I'm also hoping that you can become something of an ambassador for me. Basically taking care of things that I don't have time for, yet I can't just send anyone to fix. For you, Matt, I intend to start covering battle tactics, and I recently came up with a way to do so. The last time around, you showed amazing aptitude as a general, and for all that I bet you're about to complain you don't want responsibility, you loved it. I don't like being told what to do, Matt grumbled. That's why I'm putting you in charge, Rand said. But you do need to learn enough first. And considering I don't have an army yet, I'll have to teach you in another way. At night, while sleeping, I will pull you into a so-called dream shard, and then I'll show you battles that I'm familiar with and discuss their tactics with you. Please tell me that's not like that dream back in Baerlon, Matt said with a shiver. Yes and no, Rand said. While it's the same trick, I'm not going to scare you or anything. In fact, you might even become better at controlling your dreams as a side effect, which would make it easier to ward off Ishamael. Not that I think he'll invade your dreams again. He knows I'm the one he's looking for, so he'll focus on me. I wouldn't mind if you teach me how to keep him out too, Perrin said. You will learn that as well when Lan returns, Rand said. In fact, I might start teaching both you and Egwene about the Teleran Riod then, as you'll both have the talent to go there." "What's that?" Perrin asked. "It's the old Tun name for the world of dreams," Rand said, "which, as the name implies, is a place some people can go when they dream. Most dreams aren't there, though, and most people that visit only do so extremely briefly. The world of dreams can be a very dangerous place, because if you get injured there, the injury carries over to the waking world. However, it can also be used to gather information, meet people, or, for dreamers, it's a place where they can receive visions about what the future may hold." The conversation started drifting away to lighter topics, and Rand smiled. It had been too long. In his memory, at least, since the three of them had been together. The last time might have been as long ago as the stone, just after he'd first taken up Kalandor. He wasn't sure. A very long time ago, at least. The day before they reached Whitebridge, Moiraine took Nynaeve apart for the first time to gauge her current channeling capabilities. Rand sat on the side, paying attention but not interfering for the moment. Usually, when a girl or a boy has the spark, the innate ability to start channeling, they will draw on the one power occasionally in a time of great need, Moiraine said. If what Rand has told me about you is correct, in your case it was usually because you were trying to heal someone. You might remember occasionally having a mysterious, brief illness where you're cold, feverish, and might not quite be able to think straight. It appeared suddenly, lasted for a few hours, and then disappeared just as quickly again. "I do remember that," Nynaeve said in surprise. "I was suddenly shaking, one moment cold, then burning. It was gone in a few hours. It happened a week after I'd watched over Egwene when she had breakbone fever. Mistress Baran was the wisdom back then, and she was teaching me. I always thought she believed I'd given Egwene something without telling her." "It's called channeling sickness," Moiraine said. "The first time you channel, it happens about 10 days after you channeled. Every next time, it happens closer to when you channeled, until at one point it occurs nearly immediately. Then, it disappears. However, that's where the danger starts for an untrained channeler. Most do not learn to control their powers. In fact, most people don't even realize they are channeling. 3/4 of these women die. It's a horrible, painful death, with convulsions and screaming. It takes days, and once it has started, all the Aes Sedai in Tar Valon together won't be able to stop it. You, however, are a wilder, meaning you were lucky enough to learn how to safely channel the one power, albeit unconsciously. The issue is that you developed a block of some sort in doing so, a requirement that needs to be met before you can draw on Sadar. It can sometimes take months of effort to break a block. However, in the meanwhile, we can try to work around it, and if nothing else, you can at least learn how to see weaves." Moiraine started going through a number of simple exercises, explaining that they were meant to help novices see threads and learn to recognize when a woman was channeling. "It doesn't work," Nynaeve complained. "I don't see anything." "Patience," Moiraine said. "You need to be calm to embrace Sedar and channel its power." Nynaeve muttered angrily, but gave it another try and attempted to center herself again, continuing the exercise Moiraine was walking her through. She didn't comment on her struggles again, but from the tugging on her braid, it was clear she was still getting worked up from her failures. Eventually, Moiraine pointed out her visible frustration and suggested that they go through some meditation exercises. "It's not working!" Nynaeve exclaimed. She spluttered. "You did it," Moiraine said, completely surprised. Indeed, the familiar goosebumps appeared on Rand's skin. "Did what?" Nynaeve asked, irritated. "Embrace Sedar," Moiraine said. "I did." The anger faded away, and now it's gone again, Moiraine noted. "Toi, you weren't exactly calm." Rand stood up and moved closer to the pair. "It's Nynaeve's block," he said. "She needs to be angry to channel." That seemed to wind her up again, if the tugging on her braid was any indication. And that was quite possibly the most obvious tell for someone's mood that Rand had ever seen in any person. However, she held her tongue. "It is?" Moiraine asked. That's highly unusual. But we'll have to work with what the wheel provides, at least until we can break your block. And how would that happen? Nynaeve asked. Usually, shock, Moiraine said. You need to channel without meeting the requirements of your block just the one time, and it'll be gone forever. Do you know how I broke it last time? She asked, turning to Rand. He grimaced. You almost drowned after being attacked by a Forsaken. Not exactly a controlled environment, and a situation I hope you won't find yourself in this time. Oh, Nynaeve said. A brief pause. Do you know any other way to get through it? You remember the Age of Legends, don't you? If there is something, I don't know it, Rand admitted. But while I was considered one of the most knowledgeable men alive back then, I still knew only a fraction of what there is to know. Perhaps one of the Forsaken might know something, but unless I'd managed to subvert one away from the shadow, that's not going to be of much use. Is that possible? Nynaeve asked, disbelieving. Honestly, I've never really considered that, Rand said. The previous time around, Lanfear pretty much forced Asmodean to teach me to use Sedin, and I got the idea that he kinda made peace with that at some point, until he vanished without a trace, presumably killed by another Forsaken. Why would Lanfear do that? Moiraine asked. Rand was impressed by how unfazed she was at the mention of a Forsaken helping Rand out. It's a complicated story, but the short of it is that she has always been somewhat obsessed with me, even back in the Age of Legends. This was one of her attempts to get on my good side. I suppose she might be the most likely Forsaken to turn away from the Dark One. She even offered to do that for me, in fact, though that offer was, of course, tainted with her desire for power. Rand fell silent as he pondered his relationship with her, both in the Age of Legends and in the current, Third Age. Didn't you mention I killed her? Moiraine asked. You did, Rand said. When I slept with Avienda, she didn't exactly take the news well. Oh, is that? Nynaeve asked. An aiel wise one apprentice, Rand said. One of my girlfriends in the previous timeline. One of? Nynaeve demanded. Rand chuckled, holding his hands up defensively. It was their idea, not mine. And the other you has already told me what you thought of it, he said somewhat teasingly. Nynaeve grumbled, but with no real heat. Rand was a little impressed with how much leeway she was giving him. Probably due to his more mature outlook, he figured.